Welcome to Slow Down. Imagine facing life's toughest challenges without the strength of a resilient mind. Think about how different life would be if your mind crumbled under every setback or challenge. But what if there was a way to cultivate unwavering mental strength? In this video, we'll explore 20 common habits that can weaken our minds through the lens of Buddhism and share how we can transform these habits into pillars of inner strength. This journey will reveal practical wisdom and relatable stories to empower your mental resilience. So, let's dive in. Habit 1: negative mindset. A negative mindset can consume everything in its path, clouds our judgment, dims the beauty around us, and convinces us that happiness and success are unattainable. This isn't just about pessimism. It's a self-fulfilling trap that keeps us focused on everything wrong while missing out on the good. Buddhism offers a way to break free through mindfulness, the practice of observing our thoughts without becoming attached to them. Think of someone facing constant setbacks, convinced their life is destined for failure. This mindset becomes their reality because they filter everything through a lens of negativity. But by acknowledging these thoughts and choosing not to dwell on them, we can shift our focus toward moments of gratitude, moments of light in the darkness. Mindfulness is like sweeping away heavy clouds to reveal a brighter day. And this isn't about forcing ourselves to think positive all the time. It's about acknowledging our negative patterns, understanding their roots, and choosing to see that every cloud can pass, making room for the light. Habit 2: complaining about things outside your control. Complaining is like clinging to a hot coal, hoping the heat will change. In reality, it only burns us. When we complain about things beyond our control, we trap ourselves in a cycle of frustration. Complaining can feel temporarily satisfying, like venting steam, but it often leaves us with more dissatisfaction than before. Buddhism reminds us of the principle of impermanence. Everything is constantly changing. This means that difficult situations are temporary, as are moments of joy. Clinging to complaints anchors us to the idea that things will never change. But when we understand that even our struggles are not permanent, we can begin to let go of the habit of complaining and focus on what we can change. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means choosing to respond instead of react. Imagine facing a storm at sea. You can't control the weather, but you can navigate your boat. By channeling our energy into actions within our control, we regain agency over our lives. Habit 3: not expressing yourself. Bottling up emotions is like placing a lid on a boiling pot. The pressure keeps building. When we don't express ourselves, whether through words or actions, we suppress our true selves. This suppression can lead to stress, anxiety, and a feeling of disconnection from the world. Buddhism's practice of right speech teaches us to communicate with honesty, kindness, and mindfulness. It's not just about what we say, but how we say it. When we share our thoughts authentically, it creates space for connection and understanding. Holding back, on the other hand, isolates us. Consider the weight lifted when you finally express something you've kept inside for too long. The relief, the clarity, it's powerful. But expressing ourselves doesn't always mean talking. Sometimes it's found in actions, in creating art, or even in silent presence. What matters is allowing our true selves to be seen, heard, and felt. Habit 4: blaming others. Blame is an easy refuge. It lets us shift responsibility and point fingers at others for our problems. But in doing so, we give away our power. Blaming keeps us stuck, spectators in our own lives, unable to move forward because we believe the steering wheel is in someone else's hands. Buddhism teaches that karma, our actions, shapes our reality. When we take ownership of our role in life's outcomes, we reclaim our agency. It's not about self-blame. It's about seeing ourselves as active participants capable of change. Forgiveness plays a key role here. Carrying resentment is like lugging a heavy backpack. It weighs us down. When we forgive, we set down that burden. This doesn't mean excusing hurtful actions, but freeing ourselves from their grip. Habit 5: fantasizing instead of visualizing. Fantasizing about an ideal future can be seductive. It feels good to escape reality and imagine a perfect scenario. But fantasies are often unmoored from reality. When they don't materialize, we're left disappointed and disillusioned. Visualization, in contrast, is grounded in achievable goals and actionable steps. Buddhism emphasizes right intention and right action. Dreams alone aren't enough. We need intention and effort to bring them to life. Picture someone longing for success but doing nothing to make it happen. Their dream becomes a fantasy that fades with time. But with clear intentions and steps, that dream can be transformed into reality. By aligning our aspirations with action, we find purpose. The path won't always be straightforward. And that's where impermanence comes in, reminding us that life's only constant is change. Embracing change, we adapt and grow. Habit 6. Neglecting personal relationships. Neglecting relationships is like leaving a garden untended. It eventually withers. Humans thrive on connection. Relationships bring joy, support, and purpose to our lives. When we neglect them, we risk isolation and loneliness. Time spent with loved ones is a gift. It's the sunshine and water that nurtures bonds. Being present, truly present, is what makes these moments meaningful. Listening deeply and sharing openly builds a foundation of trust and understanding. Life is impermanent, and so are our relationships. Recognizing this truth can make us cherish every moment spent with those we love. It reminds us to prioritize connection over distractions. Habit 7. Letting emotions rule you. Emotions are powerful forces. When they take control, we lose our sense of direction. Unchecked anger, fear, or sadness can lead us astray. Buddhism teaches us to observe our emotions, not to suppress them, but to understand them. By doing so, we regain control. Mindfulness allows us to step back and watch our emotions like clouds passing in the sky. We don't need to be swept away by every storm. When we acknowledge our feelings without judgment, we create space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions, gives us a compass in life's storms. Instead of being carried away, we steer with clarity and compassion. Habit 8. Trying to control everything. Trying to control every aspect of life is exhausting. It sets us up for constant frustration because life is inherently unpredictable. Buddhism's teaching of non-attachment helps us let go of this illusion of control. Accepting what we can't change doesn't mean giving up. It means focusing our efforts where they matter most. Imagine holding on to water, it slips through our fingers. The tighter we grip, the less we hold. But by letting go, we free ourselves to adapt and move with life's flow. Surrendering control brings peace. It's like loosening a clenched fist and feeling the relief of release. Forgiveness plays a key role here. Carrying resentment is like lugging a heavy backpack. It weighs us down. When we forgive, we set down that burden. This doesn't mean excusing hurtful actions, but freeing ourselves from their grip. Habit 9. Dwelling on the past. Living in the past ties us to regret and prevents us from fully engaging with the present. We carry old wounds like heavy weights, dragging them wherever we go. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness anchors us to the here and now, freeing us from the chains of the past. Forgiveness, both for ourselves and others, is a powerful step. By letting go of past hurts, we open the door to new experiences. The past becomes a teacher, not a prison. Imagine facing each day unburdened by regret. It's not about forgetting, but about moving forward with compassion and grace for ourselves. Habit 10. Worrying about what others say. Tying our self-worth to others' opinions leaves us vulnerable. Praise and criticism come and go, like waves in the sea. Equanimity, the ability to remain balanced amid external changes, helps us stand steady. When we focus on being true to ourselves, we find peace. We become less concerned with fitting into others' expectations and more aligned with our own values. Embracing authenticity strengthens us, making us resilient to external judgment. Expanding on habit 11, negative mindset. A negative mindset can feel like a cage. locking us in cycles of self-doubt and hopelessness. The Buddha once said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." This profound teaching emphasizes how our mental habits shape our reality. Story of Angulimala. Angulimala was a feared bandit known for his violence and ruthless killings. He wore a garland of fingers from his victims, symbolizing his cruelty. But when he encountered the Buddha, a moment of profound transformation unfolded. Despite his dark past, the Buddha's compassion and calm presence led Angulimala to confront his thoughts and actions. He chose to let go of his violent ways and became a monk, dedicating his life to peace and service. This story illustrates the power of changing a negative mindset. No matter how deep the darkness seems, our thoughts, even the most negative ones, can be transformed. By practicing mindfulness and redirecting our focus, we can choose a path of compassion and positivity. Negative patterns are not permanent. They are conditioned habits that can be changed. Expanding on habit 12, complaining about things outside your control. The habit of complaining keeps us stuck in dissatisfaction. We often fall into the trap of focusing on what's wrong, thinking it will bring relief. But true peace comes when we learn to accept life's imperfections and embrace what we cannot change. The parable of the second arrow. In Buddhist teachings, there is a parable about the second arrow. When we experience pain, it is like being struck by an arrow. This pain is unavoidable. It could be physical pain, loss, or a challenging situation. However, the second arrow is the suffering we create by complaining, resisting, or dwelling on the pain. This second arrow is self-inflicted, and it magnifies our suffering. Acceptance does not mean giving up or resigning ourselves to misery. It means finding peace within chaos and choosing to respond with grace. The next time you find yourself complaining, pause and ask, "Am I adding a second arrow?" Expanding on habit 13, not expressing yourself. The weight of unspoken words can suffocate our spirit. Buddhism encourages us to practice right speech, which includes speaking truthfully, kindly, and meaningfully. Expression is not only about words, it's about authenticity and allowing our inner selves to be seen. The Buddha and the poisoned arrow. A man once approached the Buddha with a series of philosophical questions, hoping to delay the discomfort of confronting himself. The Buddha responded with a parable about a man struck by a poisoned arrow. Instead of seeking immediate help, the man insisted on knowing who shot the arrow, what kind of wood it was made from, and other irrelevant details. The point? We can waste our lives avoiding what truly matters, like expressing ourselves honestly and resolving our inner struggles. Holding back our true feelings is like allowing a poisoned arrow to fester. By expressing ourselves with mindfulness and compassion, we release tension and create space for healing. Expanding on habit 14, blaming others. Blaming others places the weight of our suffering on external circumstances. Buddhism teaches that true power lies in taking responsibility for our actions and their consequences. The story of Kisa Gautami. Kisa Gautami, a mother who lost her child, was consumed by grief. She went to the Buddha, seeking a cure for death. He told her to find a mustard seed from a household that had never known death. As she traveled from house to house, she realized that death and suffering are universal. Instead of blaming fate or others for her pain, she understood that suffering is a shared human experience. This realization freed her from blame and transformed her grief into compassion for others. Blame keeps us focused on what others have done wrong. Taking responsibility empowers us to shape our journey. By understanding that suffering is part of life, we find strength in our shared humanity. Expanding on habit 15, fantasizing instead of visualizing. The line between fantasy and visualization is grounded in intention and action. Fantasies may offer temporary escape, but they often leave us feeling empty. Visualization, guided by mindful intention, aligns us with our true goals. The farmer and the lost ox. A farmer once approached the Buddha, lamenting that his ox was missing. "You have 83 problems. The Buddha told him, "The missing ox is just one of them. Life will always give you 83 problems. If you solve one, another will arise." The farmer asked, "Then what is the solution?" The Buddha replied, "Your 84th problem is thinking that you can live without problems." This story highlights how chasing perfection or unattainable fantasies can blind us to reality. Instead, we can focus on what's in front of us with clear intention. Visualization with mindful awareness grounds us in achievable goals. It reminds us that life's challenges are part of the path and can guide us toward growth. Expanding on habit 16, neglecting personal relationships. Human connection is one of the greatest sources of joy and strength. Yet, in our pursuit of success or self-interest, we often neglect those closest to us. The tale of King Ashoka. King Ashoka was a powerful ruler known for his conquests and cruelty. After witnessing the devastating consequences of war, he turned to Buddhism, embracing compassion. He focused on nurturing relationships, promoting peace, and serving his people. Ashoka's transformation from a feared ruler to a beloved leader illustrates how connection and compassion can change lives. Relationships are not merely luxuries. They are lifelines that nurture our well-being. Investing time and presence in our loved ones deepens our sense of purpose and connection. Expanding on habit 17, letting emotions rule you. Emotions can be overwhelming, but they don't have to control us. The practice of mindfulness allows us to observe our emotions without becoming trapped by them. The story of the angry monk. A young monk struggled with intense anger. His master instructed him to sit quietly each time anger arose, observing it without judgment. Over time, the monk's anger lost its grip. He learned that emotions are like waves, they rise and fall. By observing them, we avoid being swept away. Mindfulness teaches us to witness our emotions without identifying with them. This practice empowers us to respond thoughtfully, not react impulsively. Expanding on habit 18, trying to control everything. Control is an illusion that leads to endless frustration. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It means finding freedom within uncertainty. The Buddha and the river. The Buddha once told a disciple to release his grip on a branch while crossing a river. The disciple was terrified but eventually let go, allowing the current to carry him safely. This story illustrates how clinging to control keeps us stuck. By releasing our grip, we flow with life's natural rhythms. Surrendering control is not a sign of weakness. It's a path to resilience. We learn to adapt, to bend without breaking. Expanding on habit 19, dwelling on the past. The past is a heavy burden when we refuse to let it go. Dwelling on old wounds keeps us tethered to pain, preventing us from moving forward. The parable of the two monks. Two monks were traveling when they encountered a woman who needed help crossing a river. One monk carried her across, and they continued their journey. Hours later, the other monk scolded him for touching a woman. The first monk replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This parable reminds us that clinging to the past only prolongs our suffering. Letting go of the past allows us to be fully present. Forgiveness and self-compassion free us from old wounds. Expanding on habit 20, worrying about what others say. Seeking validation from others makes us vulnerable to every passing opinion. True strength comes from self-acceptance and authenticity. The Buddha and the insults. Once, a man insulted the Buddha repeatedly, hoping to provoke a reaction. The Buddha remained calm and asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you decline it, who does it belong to?" The man replied, "To the giver." The Buddha continued, "I do not accept your insults." This story demonstrates the power of equanimity and self-mastery. When we detach from others' judgments, we find true freedom. Self-worth comes from within, not from the opinions of others. Each of these habits has the potential to weaken or strengthen our minds, depending on how we respond. Through mindfulness, compassion, and self-reflection, we can transform these habits into sources of resilience and inner peace. Buddhism offers a path to navigate life's challenges with clarity and grace. May these teachings guide you to greater strength and compassion on your journey.